All right, Pam Bondi just confirmed under oath there's a secret government list of Americans labeled as domestic threats. She refuses to show it to anyone, not even Congress. Watch this first, then we'll break it down with the evidence.
So can we assume that you or persons under your direction at the Department of Justice have prepared that list of groups or entities who are designated as domestic terrorist organizations? And I just remind you, that's a yes or no question. Did you prepare the list?
I'm not going to answer it yes or no, but what I will say is I know Antifa is part of that. I will talk to you about that.
I'm reclaiming my time. I asked you whether you
an
prepared
Antifa member
a list.
was arrested in Minneapolis
I'm
federal
reclaiming
court for
my
cyber
time.
stalking.
Did you
they
have
ask a question
a list?
and don't want an answer.
The answer is yes or no.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Pennsylvania. Gentlelady can proceed.
Okay. So will you commit to providing this committee with any list of organizations that you have recommended be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
We will comply with the law in all matters.
Will you commit to provide this committee with your list of entities that you recommend be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
I'm not going to commit to anything to you because you won't let me answer questions.
Okay, well then we do understand that your current position is that you have a secret list of people or groups that you are accusing of domestic terrorism, but you won't share it with Congress. And
Here's what you need to know that wasn't in that clip because it makes this so much worse. First, the legal framework. According to Lawfare, a national security legal blog run by former government lawyers, NPR, the Congressional Research Service, and basically every national security expert who has weighed in on this, there is no legal authority in the United States to designate a domestic organization as a threat group. None. It does not exist. Fessa Patel, a national security expert at the Brennan Center for Justice, one of the most respected legal think tanks in the country, put it plainly when she told PBS, there is simply no system for creating domestic threat labels. The only process that exists under federal law is for foreign threat organizations, the law that governs how the government labels groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And under that law, and this is the part that Congresswoman Scandan was getting at, the government is required to notify Congress before putting a group on the list, publish the decision publicly, and give the group the right to challenge it in court. That's for known foreign threat groups. Those organizations get more due process under this system than American citizens and American nonprofits apparently get under Trump's order, National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, known as NSPM 7. Second, what NSPM 7 actually targets. The order, which Trump signed on September 25, 2025, doesn't just go after people who commit acts of violence. According to the text of the memo itself, it identifies anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity as signs of domestic threat activity. It targets hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. Over 3,000 nonprofit organizations signed an open letter opposing it. 31 members of Congress wrote a letter raising concerns about whether it's even legal. Miles Taylor, who served as chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security during Trump's first term, called the order deeply alarming, and a legal analysis from Arnold and Porter, one of the biggest law firms in the country, concluded that her follow-up order would have a significant chilling effect on the activities of individuals, organizations, and funders, whom the administration views as opposed to its policies. A chilling effect, meaning people stop speaking up out of fear of being targeted. Third, and I really need you to hear this part, remember when the DOJ used to have research showing which ideologies actually pose the greatest threat of political violence to Americans? According to Snopes, in reporting from 4004 Media in The Hill, the Department of Justice quietly deleted a study from its website in September 2025. A study from the DOJ's own research arm, the National Institute of Justice, days after the Charlie Kirk incident, that found right-wing extremists had committed far more deadly attacks for political reasons than left-wing extremists since 1990. The study documented over 200 right-wing attacks, resulting in hundreds of deaths, compared to roughly 40 left-wing attacks. They didn't update the research, they didn't add to it, they deleted it. And then 2 weeks later, they issued NSPM 7 claiming the real threat is exclusively from the left. And fourth, she sat in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee during her confirmation hearing in January 2025 and pledged her exact words: there will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice. That was 13 months ago. Now she's maintaining an undisclosed political target list and telling a congresswoman you don't get anything regarding public safety when asked to see it. Quite the evolution for someone who promised independence. So let me give you the language to explain this to anyone who asks. The administration ordered the Attorney General to create a list of domestic threat organizations. The Attorney General compiled that list in secret. She refuses to share it with Congress. There is no legal basis for it. There is no process for an organization to contest it. And the ideologies, the memo targets, anti-capitalism, criticism of Christianity, views on gender and immigration are constitutionally protected beliefs, not crimes. This isn't countering political violence. This is a political opponent's list with a national security label slapped on it. So, what does this actually mean for you? If you've ever donated to a nonprofit that advocates for immigration reform or climate action or criminal justice reform or reproductive rights, congratulations, you might be funding what this administration considers a domestic threat. If you attend a church that doesn't align with what Stephen Miller considers traditional American views on family, religion, and morality, your congregation could end up on a list. And you'll never know because they won't tell you. And under this system, you have no right to find out. It's like getting a parking ticket that's also classified. Step back. And this is the machinery of a government that wants to punish its critics, and it's being assembled in broad daylight. The Charity and Security Network, a coalition that tracks how national security law affects nonprofits, noted that NSPM 7 directs the IRS to audit organizations suspected of being even loosely connected to what the government calls domestic threats, and the Treasury Department to trace their funding using tools originally built for tracking terrorist money overseas. A lawfare analysis pointed out that the Trump executive order labeling the anti-fascist movement a domestic threat organization has no legal basis and cites none. It's not something enforceable. It's a political statement, but banks and platforms will treat it as real anyway, freezing accounts and kicking groups off their services just to cover themselves. The chilling effect is the point. And for what? Congresswoman Scandon made a point in that hearing that deserves repeating. The PB organization was convicted of sedition, meaning they were convicted of conspiring to overthrow the government. The OK militia group was convicted of the same thing. Their leaders received sentences of 18 and 22 years, the longest in the entire Capitol events investigation. A Trump-appointed judge agreed their crimes qualified as acts of political violence. And this administration's response was to pardon every single one of them on day one, and then turn around and build a secret domestic threat list that somehow doesn't include the groups that were actually convicted of trying to stop the incoming president from taking office. Really makes you wonder what the selection criteria are. National security experts at Lawfare and the Brennan Center wrote that labeling the anti-fascist movement a domestic threat organization is essentially a political statement dressed up as law enforcement. It has no legal basis and cites none. Here's the key thing. The federal law that defines domestic political violence only defines what domestic threat activity is. It doesn't give anyone the power to make a list. It doesn't create any new crimes, and it doesn't authorize the government to officially label any group or individual as a domestic threat. In other words, her entire legal basis doesn't exist. She is compiling lists under authority she does not have, keeping them secret from the body that is supposed to oversee her, and targeting beliefs that are explicitly protected by the First Amendment. But sure, the real problem is that Congresswomen keep asking her questions. Here's where things stand. The Attorney General confirmed under oath that she has compiled a list of organizations the administration considers domestic threats. She will not share it with Congress. She will not confirm who is on it. There is no legal process for anyone to challenge their inclusion, and the underlying memo targets political beliefs, not crimes. This issue is bigger than any one group or political fight. The real question is whether the United States government can keep a secret list of its own citizens and organizations based on their beliefs, call them threats without clear legal authority, and refuse to tell anyone, including Congress, who is on it or why. Systems like that echo tactics from the McCarthy era, now combined with modern national security power. Scanlon's warning matters because history shows that abuses like this helped bring down McCarthy and Nixon, and the only question now is how much damage happens before accountability comes again. The situation has reached a point where basic limits on government power still have to be explained to the people in charge, which shows how easily hard-learned lessons can fade over time. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you like this video and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss when I drop new content. Share this with someone who needs to see it and subscribe for more deep dives like this. This is Sophie Bennett. Thanks so much for watching.